Hello, everyone. Welcome to Four Lads the Dream live podcast. My name is Stevie, joined by Kenny as ever. Kenny, welcome. How are you? I hope you're well.
I am, mate. Yep. Feeling a lot better than I was yesterday, so that's a bonus.
Yeah, no Andrew Anderson tonight. He was a late finish from work, so just said to him just to chill. I'm sure there'll be lots of pods in the coming days and weeks, so he's plenty of time to catch up. Good evening, everybody joining us. Good evening, all our YouTube members. We had a wee show went out today called Rangers First and Favourites. And that was hosted by Davey Herd. I was his first guest today, and we done that. So that's available for members on YouTube if you want to watch that. So we trip down memory lane, all your first and favourite Rangers things, from games to players to strips to all sorts of stuff. So that was nice to do that today. Kenny, the news never stops. Vardy linked heavily. Diomande linked with a move away. Manager chat. All sorts of things happening today. Tommy asks, we makeover in the cupboard, Stevie. Thank you, mate. Yeah, this is Peekaboo Blue, and I'm very proud of it because I fixed all the walls in here. I took down some stuff, went and fixed it all, and gave it a good paint and fixed the lighting, just to try and make it a wee bit more appealing and make it a wee bit better for everybody watching. So I hope that does. But yeah, good evening, everybody. A lot of people tuning in. A lot of people joining in the conversation. So Kevin Thelwell starts today. Some interesting comments, but what's your impressions of him starting, Dan Purdy starting, and Niels Coppin also is here in the remaining or the next couple of weeks at least, just to kind of see that over. What's your thoughts overall now that officially they're in?
Well, I liked what Kevin Thelwell had to say. Pretty much what you wanted to hear, wasn't it? Niels Coppin there for the transitional period, and Dan Purdy arrived today. I've seen a little bit of footage of the two of them turning up at, I think it was the training centre, wasn't it, today, and getting to work. So, yeah, quite impressed and quite pleased. As I say, the thing that I noticed more than anything else was what he had to say, and he said all the right things. So, yeah, onwards and upwards, Stevie. I think that's the way I would look at it, and we'll see where we go. It's effectively day one, and we've got a long summer in front of us and quite an exciting one.
When do we think new manager will be announced? We'll talk about the manager stuff at the end of the show, I think. But let's talk a wee bit first about Kevin Thelwell's start today, Kenny. I'm going to read some of the things that he said. He said, it would be a great honour to be joining Rangers, particularly at such an exciting moment in the club's history. While there has been a significant work going on in the background prior to my arrival, that naturally accelerates from today, and top of the priority list will be the appointment of a new head coach for our men's first team. That search has been progressing well, and the club and I look forward to bringing that to conclusion in the coming days. Hallelujah. This new chapter for Rangers, and while we recognise success won't come easy, our goal is clear: we need to win. My focus is on delivering that with discipline, ambition. We'll give everything to move this club forward as quickly and sustainably as we can. I had to laugh a wee bit. Rangers quote says, Thelwell 51 was at Rangers training ground this morning for the first time. Was he? Aye. That's not true in the slightest. Guy's been living here for about 3 or 4 months. So, yeah, I mean, he says all the right things, but there's a key thing, right slap bang in the middle of it, Kenny. The search has been progressing well, and the club and I look forward to bringing that to a conclusion in the coming days. I will stick to what I've said, and we'll talk a wee bit more about the manager at the end, and I'll say from that what I think again. But good words from him, and it really is. It's right into deep end for him because he's got a hell of a lot to do in a short space of time. I think we're now exactly 3 weeks today, 21 days. I think the players return, don't they? So, yeah. It's there's no time to waste for Kevin Thelwell, that's for sure.
No, he has got a very, very busy summer in front of him. Of that, there's no doubt. And interesting that you said there's been a huge amount of work done in the background before he got here, which suggests, as you say, they've been working like troopers, I'll call it, already. And as I said last night, mate, I genuinely feel that when you consider what has happened even since Friday, all these things are well in place. It's that infrastructure that we've been crying out for forever. That's just one of those things that we've been crying out for, to see this professionalism and infrastructure get put in place, and that's all we can hope for, is that when he's here, now he is here, that we see very publicly what he's about to do. We've seen it. We got a glimpse of it yesterday when it was announced that Dan Purdy was coming in and Niels Coppin will be leaving, and there's this transitional period where I'm pretty certain what Niels Coppin will do is hand over to Dan Purdy, isn't it? That's what he's going to do, and just let him get to know a little bit about the club and stuff like that, and what is going on behind the scenes. And listen, for me, I'm quite excited by Kevin Thelwell, because it's one of those things that I think they mean business. I think the new owners mean business. They've put their trust in this guy. And as I say, for me, he's said all the right things, and he's got one hell of a summer in front of him.
There's a comment here that says, Stevie, scratch your nose if the manager's tomorrow. And I read it about 90 seconds ago, and I've been needing to scratch my nose. And it's got honestly nothing. It's got nothing to do with that. I'll talk about the manager at the end. Huge thanks to Tino55, gifted 5 4 lads of the Dream Rangers podcast membership. Thank you so much. We really appreciate all your support. I think 400 members now, well over that on YouTube, which is incredible. The support you're giving us is sensational. You might remember I said we'd just over 7,000 subs. We're now up at nearly or just under 7,500 already. So if you haven't subscribed, we really appreciate it. If you do, it's free. If you want to become a member on YouTube, you can grab one of the memberships if they're still available from Tino. He's gifted 5, or you can subscribe for as little as 99p a month. On the YouTube page, it just says join. Click the join button and it will tell you how to do it. Lots of things in there: membership, interviews with Bob Malcolm, Stevie Smith, Helicopter Sunday video. There's a documentary on David Cooper. Trying to think, we've got interviews with Derek Ferguson, as well as a feature-length interview with Stephen Naismith. So there's lots of content there for members. So really appreciate everyone that's already signed up. Kenny, I'm just in thinking about, obviously Thelwell and stuff. We discussed most of it last night, so there's no need to kind of repeat and go over it. But I am glad he's here. I'm glad that Dan Purdy's here, and the head of recruitment gives us a bit of structure. I can't help but think that Niels Coppin, it's a bit unlucky. He's had a bit of a mixed bag, as we spoke about, but he'll be there to hand things over, which, again, to repeat what I said earlier, I think just smooths over the transition. I don't think there's any way that these guys coming in have done it without, there's no decisions that made. Say, for example, Mulligan is coming in, or the boy Burgess is coming in. That's not happened without Dan Purdy and without Kevin Thelwell, etc. They were there at Old Trafford in January, which I laughed about today as well, literally hiding in plain sight. And in summary, I'm glad it's all come together, and I just hope head coach next couple of days and we can really begin to kick on, because sooner or later players are going to have have to arrive, and we're going to have to get ready.
Well, that's it exactly. There's quite a substantial rebuild to do, Stevie, on that squad, and at some point we're going to start seeing real movement on players. We're going to come to this anyway, but there's even just since yesterday, there's 4 or 5 stories or or speculation about players coming and going and stuff like that, and I have no doubt that there is loads going on behind the scenes that we are just about to go. And as I keep saying this, I think it's the 3rd time I've said this already, but this is going to be one hell of a summer. It's going to be just chaos, I think, at times, in terms of trying to take on board what's going, the comings and goings, because we are at that point where if you look at it and you're realistic, they're starting from a kind of almost the lowest point that you can. So you can only go up, you can only move forward, and that's what we need to see. And they're in day one, and it's coming across that we're already impatient. I think we just want to see stuff happening, and we will, because what I would say about Kevin Thelwell is that if he's been prepping for this job for months, effectively, then he will have a strategy already in place himself. He will be saying, right, this is happening, that's happening today, this is my week's work, this is my next week's work. And that's where, as you say, the big one this week will probably be, the head coach. That's probably what you would expect to see. He didn't say coming weeks, he said coming days. So I would imagine that's fairly soon. I don't know what you think, but that's where I'm at with it. I would imagine that will be at some point this week, when we don't know and who we don't know. But let's see where it goes.
Yeah, we'll talk about the manager stuff. I'm keen not to get into that. I'm going to take questions just as we're going. Peggy's got an interesting one here. Peggy's a long-time supporter of the show. So we'll take this question. A couple of questions regarding Rangers have cleared themselves with SFA regarding dual ownership. Yes, they have. Spoke about that on day one. There is no issue. Sky Sports, Gordon Duncan, his interview live from Ibrox on the day of the takeover also was cleared. Rangers have said that they've spoke to and have clearance from the SFA regarding dual ownership. Regarding FAP and UEFA, what is the criteria? The criteria is that we don't spend over, I think, 70%. I would need to go into that. I'm not really in mind of those at hand. I would need to go into that, Peggy. What I can say is, in conversations with the football club that we've had, there seems to be a lot of availability in terms of where we can go with wages and money to spend, given the cost savings they've done. We're well below they're saying a 70% average that it needs to be. So I'm not sure that is any issue. I know that James Taylor, who does a very good job in the financial side of things, he's been on the podcast before. We spoke to him. Maybe nice to try and get that actually again. James Taylor would be a really good one to speak to. The problem with James is when you speak to him, though, he speaks in financial tongue, which for a mere mortal like myself is left going, I understand, and then at the same time you're like, what? But so hopefully that clarifies it for you in terms of the SFL dual ownership. Rangers have said, as Gordon Duncan said on that live Sky thing, that there's no need for concern. So we will take questions tonight, folks, just as we go along. And let's get to the next thing we were going to discuss, Kenny, which is obviously today it was mentioned that Rangers have numerous employees on the governing bodies, committees throughout the SPFL. So James Taylor, just spoke about him, our CFO, has been appointed to the SPFL Audit Committee. We will support and oversee the financial governance of the league. Kevin Thelwell will contribute to 2 important areas: the Compensation Tribunal Working Group and the SPFL Competitions Working Group, which is responsible for the competitive structure of the SPFL. Donald Gillies Rangers Managing Director of Women's and Girls Football has been appointed the SPFL representative to Scottish FA Congress for a 2-year term. And he'll be contributing to the strategic discussions relating to National Association. Gillies also remains on the board of the SWPL. Head in Safety, Security, Resilience, Dan Folds. He will represent the club on the SPFL Working Policies Group. Our company secretary, Graham Horseman, will take on the broad remit and appointments to 3 separate groups, the SPFL Rules and Regulations Review Working Group. This is key. The Scottish FA Rules Revision Group and the JPP Judicial Panel Protocol Working Group. Greg Mailer will represent the club also on the Scottish Football Marketing Commercial Advisory Board, and Patrick Stewart will stand for election onto the board of the SPFL itself on June 24th. So Rangers is committed to being a force for good in Scottish football. Just on Greg Mailer is our new Chief Commercial and Marketing Officer. Met with Greg a couple of times to discuss, 4 lads, and things like that. Greg has been really helpful and done a lot of good stuff at Rangers so far, so we'll see how that goes. But Kenny, it is vitally important that Rangers have a say in the running of Scottish football. It's vitally important that they're on as many SPFL boards as possible, because we've long had suspicions about how Scottish football is run, and when things like Easter Road happen, we need to ensure that we are trying to ensure that those things don't happen again, because that was a farce.
That was a farce. That was a joke. Very interesting that they've actually put that out in a statement today, effectively, which I'm not aware of them doing very often. I know that sometimes they'll put up that, the CEO or whoever is on the SPFL board or whatever, but I'm not aware of them doing this before, and I might be wrong, but that's my kind of moment and my take on it, is that what we need is, you're talking about an influence. We need to be far more influential, and for want of another word, political. We need to have that sway. Rangers for many years just haven't had it, and kind of almost get bullied to a certain degree when you're trying to put your point across. I've lost count of the amount of times that the SFA have managed to kind of slap us down after we put out a statement over the last few years. And with all respect, that should never be the case. You should be able to turn around and put your point across forcibly, measurably, and leave the SFA with nowhere to go. And we have done the exact opposite many times over the last few years. And that's where I'm hoping that the new owners are really aware that we have the potential to be the most influential and powerful club in the country. And that's what I would like to see. And it's brilliant to see the amount of different people at the club on these boards and being able to turn around and influence and get your point across, because there's going to be so much over the next few months, Stevie, that once the 49ers and Andrew Kavanagh come in, they're going to look at certain things, like, for talking sake, the TV deal. They're going to look at that, and they're going to, if they get their head under the bonnet with that, they're going to look at that and go, wow, this is ridiculous. So that's where I'm looking for the I keep using the word influence, and I know that the boys saying it's not so much about sway, but it is more about Rangers being at that top table, as he said, and being able to lead it. And that's what I want to see. That's where, up until maybe 20 years ago, that's always been the case for me, that growing up, Rangers were always the most influential and powerful club in the country, and I want to see that again.
Yeah, I mean, I'm with the point there, that I would rather we were just at the table, making sure things weren't decided without us, to be quite honest. And I think that's happened too much. I think others have influenced Scottish football far too much. I think people in Scottish football are led by the wrong people, and we should be at least involved in discussions which certainly will influence and affect us as well. But let's move on, Kenny. Interesting link, sure enough, probably as soon as we went off the pod last night. Incidentally, 10,000 people have watched that, 11,000 people on Saturday and 10,000 people on Friday. The support that people are giving us for this podcast is absolutely unbelievable. If you haven't heard me say thanks, then honestly, I'm really thankful for it, Kenny. The support is incredible. But Diomande, that rumour popped up probably about 5-10 minutes, or probably even at the end of the show last night. He's been linked with a move to Everton. They're said to be quite keen. So let's discuss this hypothetically. First of all, how much do you rate Mohamed Diomande, and is he a player that you would be willing to see go? And if you are willing to see go, what kind of fee is tempting you to make that move?
I think the boy is a good player. I think he's got bags of potential. I think he's got the capability to be a much, much better player than he is already. And what I would think, if anything, is, do I want to see him go? Not necessarily, but if, and I've been on record on here many, many times, what I would look at is we have to get a player trading model in place. Therefore, every single player, for me, is available if the price is right. They have to be. That is the way forward for us. It has to be the way forward. And it's the same with Nico Raskin. It's a simple one. It's, you could look at it and say you don't want to lose your two key midfield players in the one window. I've got no issue with that at all. If you could get 35 million for the two of them, why not? You take the money, you build a new team, you get replacements. Every player is dispensable for me, every single one of them, and it doesn't matter how good they are. There's certain players over history that you wouldn't do that with, and sadly this squad doesn't have any of those players for me. That's where I'm at. If I was to look at Diomande's value, I think we paid 4 million for him. I would be looking at, based on his European performances, his performances in big games, I'm looking at 8 figures plus. And that's where I'm looking at. Anything from 10 onwards is where I would be starting the bidding effectively. What do you think yourself? Because that's my kind of take on it.
Right, okay. Mohamed Diomande is a player that I really like. I think he's an excellent player. I think that he's got wonderful potential, but he's a massive way away from being consistent in a Rangers jersey, and I think that's what he lacks, especially in Scotland. When he's good, he's fantastic. I think that he can run a midfield, and he's shown that in Old Firm games. He's been excellent, for example. He's popped up with a couple of goals as well. Now, here's the thing, and this is where I am with Mohamed Diomande. Nico Raskin has taken that next step, and he's now at a point where I think he's at maximum value. I don't think Mohamed Diomande is at maximum value yet. I think Mohamed Diomande, if things click for him with 3 years left on his deal, I think he could have a season where he propels himself up there towards where Nico Raskin is. I'm not saying where he's going to be as good as, but I don't think he's hit that peak yet for Rangers. So unless this is a very good bid, 10 million plus for me, I'm saying no. And that, I'm with you. Every player has his price. Absolutely, every player has his price. And if we were to lose them both, then it would have to be for a lot of money. But we would lose them both if the bids were good. We've already seen, people talking about Leeds and their owners doing things for what they want to do. So, best case scenario, Raskin signs a contract, gets given more responsibility. I don't want to say captain's armband because I don't want to be disrespectful to James Tavernier. If he stays, he is the captain, whether you like it or not. And I'm not for ripping it off of people. Whether or not James Tavernier should stay, I've had that conversation 100 times. But with Mohamed Diomande, I'm in no rush to sell him. He's one of the ones that I would keep in the squad. He's one of the ones that I think can progress and should progress. He's got all the attributes for me. I think his engine's incredible. He's a good tackler. He can get forward, but he just lacks consistency. I'm not going to say that sometimes he hides because that's not fair, but sometimes he's not as influential. And I think that's a good way to describe it, Kenny, as others. So it's got to be a big bid for me. And if that big bid comes, then okay, fair enough. But it has to be a big one, Kenny. I'm sorry to even contemplate it.
It's got to be a massive bid, mate. He's a good player, and as I said, that's what you're buying there is slightly different in terms of age and stuff like that, and how far he is on his career. But it's slightly similar to Hamza Egeman, where what you're buying is bags and bags of potential, and Mo Diomande is the same. What I think Mo Diomande needs sometimes is to actually be a little bit more physical. I think that's a failing in his, not a failing in his game, it's a flaw in his game, where I think he can be a little bit lightweight at times, not all the time, weirdly, but at times. And that's where I'm at as well. It has to be an offer that you can't refuse. What that would be is obviously up to the owners, but I would be looking at probably, as I say, that I wouldn't necessarily want to take 10 million either. I'm saying start the bidding at 10, but I would be looking at perhaps, to make it one of those big, bids that you have to accept. You're looking at perhaps up to 15 million with add-ons in it. That's where you would look at it and say, do you know what, you can, that's replaceable. That's where I'm kind of at with him. And do I want to see him go? No, I don't actually. But as I say, it comes down to the new owners having that business sense and wherewithal to understand this is good for the club, it's good for the team, it's good for business, and then, and I would try. This is my point, that we, I said this yesterday. We get to the point where we're going to have to trust them. They did this at Leeds a couple of years ago, mate, where they sold probably the three best players for a lot of money and replaced for. I think they sold three for, I think it was well over 120 million or something like that, and they signed six players for 30 million quid and became a better football team, mate. So that's where I'm kind of at with it. They will understand. Kevin Thelwell will understand if it's a deal that works for us or not.
Yeah, good point here. And this is kind of what I was trying to say. Deal cracks under pressure of the fans. That's subjective, I think. Might grow out of it, might not be an issue elsewhere, but he can go hiding when the going gets tough. Going hiding, I think, is the same as not being influential. There's so many times that I think games where you've said that he's not been influential enough. But in the biggest games, I think that he tends to really turn up. He's been excellent in Old Firm games. Really, really good. But away at St Mirren, he's been anonymous, and that's Mohamed Diamande's biggest problem, I think. The bottom line is, and I think this is the most sensible way to do it, sensible bids for anyone in this squad will be looked at, and I think we just have to be realistic with that, Kenny. And that leaves us to quite an interesting debate that's now going on, and this has been going on for quite a while, but it appeared on Sky Sports today after a report in the Daily Mail that Rangers are heavily interested in Jamie Vardy. Now, I was asked about Jamie Vardy probably about 6 weeks ago in Rangers Review, and I was asked whether or not I would take him. So before I talk about this, Kenny, where are you on Jamie Vardy? He's out of contract, he's left Leicester, he's been released. Are we... is this serious? Would you consider it? And what do you think of him overall as a player?
Is it serious? I don't know. As far as I'm aware, at Leicester he was in about 80 grand a week. I think I'm right in saying that. So he's going to have to take a hell of a pay drop to come here for a start. And would I take him? Yes, I actually absolutely would. It would remind me very much of the Jermaine Defoe type of signing, where you're getting a guy who is the ultimate professional, but what you're getting with Jamie Vardy is a guy that would come up here, and with respect to Jermaine Defoe, when he came here, he was coming as your second, third choice striker. Jamie Vardy would play a lot of games at this minute in time because he's ultimately incredibly fit, and he's still got his pace, and he is one hell of a finisher, mate. So would he play every game? No, he wouldn't, but that's the entire point about what we have been missing up front. We have sat there for almost 18 months now, mate, with almost at times one striker to pick because of injuries and because of Hamza Egeman not being ready at the start of this season. Danilo, having his injury problems. We've had to play Cyril Dessers week in, week out, twice a week, and we can't do that. And that's the type of signing that would excite me in the short term. And that's kind of what I'm looking at, where it's a free. You'll have a hefty signing on package of that, there'll be no doubt. But if you can get that deal done and at the right price for us, then I think it's an absolute no-brainer. Whether it's a true story or not, or just an agent throwing names about, I genuinely don't know. I have no clue. But for me, it would be an exciting signing, yeah.
Right, here's the thing, and here's where I am. First of all, it depends on wages. That's key to me. He's been on a fair whack at Leicester for a number of years, and fair play to him, he's allowed to earn that. And I think, given everything he's done there, that's that's rewarded him for that. So it depends on that. First of all, right, there's job one for me. Second of all, he's 38. So that's your second thing. Defoe, I think, was younger when he came to Rangers. I'm not sure how true this link is in the slightest, but Jamie Vardy coming to Rangers for me is a yes, because one, we need experience. We do not have an experienced front man anywhere. He would make a difference to the front line, even if it's just on individual kind of cameo appearances. He doesn't need to start every game. So as a squad player and things, yes. Now there's another reason with that. We put far too much pressure on Cyril Dessers to start every game, to score all our chances, to be the one putting the ball in the net, and we need more options. I'm not against Shankland, Vardy, any of these guys coming in if it's going to help him. A 1-year deal with an option is the most I would offer, the most. But we need more firepower. We need more firepower. So it's an interesting one. I wouldn't rule it out. I wouldn't rule it indefinitely. It's just one of those ones where we need to see. We need experience and we need guys that can put it in the net. So, and we need more options. We are very limited to the options we have up front. And that's one thing I am very mindful of. Huge thanks to Big Rod, who has gifted 5 Four Lads of the Dream memberships. These go really quickly. They're at the top of the chat. To grab them, just press the link. Thank you for your support, mate. Genuinely. As I said, it's as little as 99p if you want to become a member, and you get access to all sorts of extra additional stuff. David and I done a new member show today on Rangers First and Favourites, which will open up after we've done all the podders. We'll open up to Four Lads founding members as well, so you can get your chance to come on to Four Lads and have your say, which might be a lot of fun. Be interesting to find out what people's first and favourites and things were. Getting back to things, Kenny, we're going to be linked with so many people in this coming transfer window, especially in the next 3 weeks before the players return. We need to sign players quickly, and that is obviously going to create a lot of speculation. And I would bet 2-3 players on a daily basis will be getting linked. One of the names already, Bojan Majowski, I think, has been made available by Girona. You would take him. I think he knows the league, has the pace, a very quick player. I remember that Aberdeen away game where we paid that ridiculously high line and he got in and finally scored. And I think he's a good player, but I think he would be a lot of money. Somebody mentioned that he would go for cheap. I'm not sure that's the case. I think he would, if they bought him for 6, I think he would be a lot of money as well, Kenny Majowski. But he is the kind of player we need. We need pacey goal scorers, not only in attack, from midfield, from wide. We need to add goals to this team from a range of positions.
Yeah, Majowski is another one that you've got to look at that seriously if he's available. And because I think he was at Aberdeen for 2 seasons and scored the best part of 60 goals, mate. And that's, with all respect, it wasn't a great Aberdeen side. So he does know that league, and he knows where the back of the net is. And as I say, that you're right, we're going to get linked with everybody and anybody, but Majowski's a different one, in it, because I don't know what you feel. Again, it's one of those things that I would look at really seriously. If you could get him for the right price, it would be one of them that he would look at and think, well, yeah. The only thing I would say, if you're doing that, where does it leave Egeman? That's the kind of point that I would make. Where does he go down the pecking order? Does he start as your number one? It's a kind of strange one, where we're looking at that already, and we've mentioned Cyril Dessers, we've mentioned Lawrence Shankland, Jamie Vardy, and Majowski, and I know it's all speculation, but that's my only concern, that I want to see Hamza Egeman get plenty of game time next season, mate. That's the one I personally would feel that I'd want to keep, because you could probably make a right few quid on him this season, but I think if he gets the proper nurturing next season, that boy is going to go for a lot of money.
We certainly hope so. I'm not sure he's ready to start every single week yet. He's got an inconsistency about him as well, and we really need to find out what happens with Cyril. That's the big question. I'm on record as saying, if good money is offered for Cyril Dessers, then I'm accepting it. But where do you find somebody that's going to get you 50 goals in 2 seasons? But I just think there's so much baggage around Cyril that now might be the right time to cash in on him. I'm going back to my notes slightly, Kenny, because I want to bring up something that was said earlier by Kevin Thelwell when he joined in, and I think that's really key, and it'll go back to what I want to talk about. That search was progressing well in the club, and I look forward to bringing that to a conclusion in the coming days. Big thanks to Dane Life, who's become a YouTube member before we carry on. SJ McNiven has also become a YouTube member, which we really, really appreciate. Here's my theory, and it is a theory, and it's a wacky one, and I said it last night as well. I think the manager has been decided for several weeks. So I'm quite comfortable in this, that probably the only people that are getting in a state and worrying about this is us as supporters, while Kevin Thelwell, Patrick Stewart and things have played this spectacularly well. There's been no leaks. For the first time in a very long time at Ibrox, there's been absolutely no leaks about anything. Even the takeover was fairly watertight until it was done. And the information I got last Wednesday was not from Rangers Football Club that it was done. So they've done that spectacularly. My feeling is that this is already decided, and that they know exactly who it's going to be. I said last week, takeover, Thelwell, and then the manager. I'm expecting, hopefully, the manager to arrive by midweek. I don't know. A lot of people saying, is it going to be tomorrow? Is it going to be Wednesday? I do not know. I do not know at all. I have my suspicions. My suspicions are pointing towards an Italian, and that's in hope as much as it is in my own feelings on it. That's for sure. But we're going to find out in the coming days, Kenny, and it's going to be between Ancelotti and Russell Martin if reports are right. It's good to finally be here. It needs to be done. We need to know what's happening. It needs to build that sense of excitement about it. And there were some interesting quotes on Russell Martin today, which I'm going to read in a second. But it's nice to hear Kevin Thelwell say it's finally going to be done and we can expect it soon.
Yeah, it's, and I'm with you on it. I have no doubt in my mind that they have the manager in place already. They know exactly who it is, and whether he's on holiday or just waiting to turn up in Glasgow, I have no idea. But who it's going to be, I genuinely have no idea. And I said again last night, it wouldn't surprise me if it's neither of them. And it's not because I think it's not either of them. It's just that exactly what you've said, that nobody has an earthly about who this is. And because nothing's getting out. And I don't know if that's because it's brand new owners and they don't know anybody yet and or whatever, but it is literally nothing is getting out of there. It's like Fort Knox, and it's intriguing because, and again, I've kind of alluded to this already, but over the last few years, just about everything that's happened you've heard about before it's been officially released or whatever, and that's what I am. That's where I'm at. If you're giving me the choice of Ancelotti or Russell Martin, to me, there's only one, and it's Ancelotti. That's who I would like to see. For the simple reason it excites me more. I think the potential to get players that perhaps we wouldn't even consider being able to bring from different leagues that, you know, that perhaps not that the leagues are out of our remit, but the potential to get a better player out of these top 5 leagues or whatever, that's there with him. Whereas I'm not sure it's actually there with Russell Martin at all. I just think on the face of it, when you're coming to work for a guy like that, I think there's more sway in that than there is in somebody like Russell Martin. And again, I'm still not at all aware of who it's going to be. I'm just speculating like everybody else. But I found it really quite exciting. I found the fact that it's lasted so long is now getting frustrating for me. And I think probably frustrating for everybody else, because when you stop and think about this, I think maybe even perhaps a month before Barry Ferguson left, you know, for me, I felt after the Bilbao game away that there was just no way he was going to get it. So I've kind of been thinking from there, who's it going to be? And that's a long time to be sitting, kind of trying to second guess who a manager is going to be or a first team coach is going to be.
Yeah, honestly, I'm looking forward to it being done on the basis of fairness, and I like to be fair. Russell Martin was spoke about today, and here's what we said. If you're asking me, can his system work in Scotland? I think it certainly can. He can cause teams loads of problems at previous clubs like MK Dons and Swansea. They've been between 70 and 80% possession. He understands that you need to win at Rangers, and that's all that matters. And I think Russell could implement fairly quickly. I'm very sure of that. The best example of that is Postecoglou at Celtic, and it's similar. It took him 3 or 4 months, but within that, he had a well-oiled machine and players who understood exactly what they had to do and expect. I think Russell can do that. It's a very enjoyable way of working. I've seen it firsthand. I've seen his training sessions. I know how he communicates. With players, he gets instant buy-in because it's an enjoyable way of playing. The training and the way he gets the detail across is brilliant, and then it becomes evident on the pitch. That is Stephen Naismith talking about Russell Martin. It's the first time that anybody's kind of popped their head up and spoke positively about Russell Martin that I've caught. But I thought his comments were fairly interesting, Kenny.
Yeah, they are. But when you sent us that earlier on, the first thing I read was this 70 and 80% possession. Possession means nothing, mate. It's what you do with it. And we keep saying this.
Honestly, I need to interrupt you. See, when I asked you about that, the deflation in you was unbelievable. Just go and get your Ancelotti Italian t-shirt on right now, mate.
I know I am. Out of a depth, matey. No, it's just, it's one of those kind of things that how do I put this without being really disrespectful? Just no. It's just something I don't want to see. And I get what Stephen A. Smith's trying to say. It's really attacking. It's really this. And it's, listen, mate, I've watched these teams and they are very, very similar to a Mark Warburton or a Gio Van Bronckhorst team. They're very, very similar. And if it works, it's great. And if it doesn't work, it's tedious and it's dull. And you sit there with, on a plastic pitch with 10 men behind the ball at Livingston, where you're sitting there, you're camped, on the halfway line, passing it back and forward to centre halves, putting it out to your fullbacks, putting it in the middle, cutting it back again, putting it. It's tedious, and it is, and it's because if you can't break that low block down, then you're not going to get anywhere with that kind of possession football, and that's where I'm at with them. And no, I'm sorry, just not, absolutely not for me. Just no, it's not something I want to see. And listen, if it is him, then yeah, I heard you say that as well, that you'll get behind him 100%. And whatnot. Of course you will, and of course I would, but I'm putting it out there right now that if it happens to be him, he won't last, because I've just got that feeling that we've seen it all before, mate.
Interesting. Greg Rudder, who everybody might know as Greg Cole, just said, check your phone, Stevie. He sent me something quite interesting, which I'm waiting to find out back from him. So, Greg, check your phone back, because I've just texted you back. And then I can maybe share with everybody. Right, let's go to a few questions, if anyone's got anything before we wrap up. What I would say on Martin is just what I've said before. My worry is that it would become a glorified horseshoe again. Possession means nothing if you aren't doing it in the final third. Clermont teams were good at keeping the ball. Gio's teams were excellent at keeping the ball, but we kept the ball because it was around this bit. So that's the thing that concerns me. I would be worried if it was that. I would get behind him 100%. Of course I would. And it's ridiculous because Ancelotti, I don't know anything about him. I don't know his style. He's got no experience. It's a wild card. We shouldn't even be thinking about it. In reality, we need probably a different, but it excites me just for the reasons I've said to you before, Kenny. It's a romantic thing about Real Madrid and his background. He's been involved in so many Champions League wins. He's had so many positive comments about him, etc. Who could he bring? What's his phone book like in terms of options and things like that? All that excites me more than the alternative. I'm sorry if people disagree and things like that. I read some comments out last night from Southampton forums and stuff on Russell Martin, and it scares the bejesus out of me because he's so single-minded. And if it doesn't work, he just keeps going. And the comment was 94 minutes and we're still passing it around the back. And that's the most worrying thing, Kenny. So
even you said that, Stevie, about that passing around the back. Different way, but very similar for me was, do you remember that we were at home, I think it was Livingston, I think John Lundstrom equalised with a couple of minutes to go when we had 70 odd crosses into the box. You remember that game? And I think I'm sure it was John.
No. We were not 1-0 down, and John Lundstrom equalised.
We equalised. That's what I'm saying. Yeah, but we had 77 crosses or something like that into the box, and it's this repetition thing that I don't want to see it. This is not a personal thing. It's just this, as I've said already. It's this philosophy manager thing that maybe I'm just too old, mate, and I don't really get it. I don't fully understand what they're trying to do, but it's like, for me, I can look at this and I can honestly say, from Mark Warburton to even Steven Gerrard's teams were quite predictable in the way that they played, to Gio, to Michael Beale, to Philip Clement. We have seen this similar style of play over and over and over again, with slight tweaks here and there. But that's the difference between somebody like Ancelotti, and you said it there a minute ago, and Russell Martin, is that it's a change of menu. and he will be looking at it through a fresh pair of eyes, and he'll have to come and learn the league as well. Of that, there's no doubt. But Russell Martin is just that guy that we've seen enough of his teams over the years already, that for me, you just look at it and say, I don't think that's going to work here. On the basis that I think we've seen it before. And at Ibrox, we've had in general, I think we've had a fill of watching us being kind of not able to break that low block down. And I've just not got the belief in me that Russell Martin's got that in him either.
Greg said that he really liked the blue in my room and it brought out the blue in my eyes. That's what he messaged me. Andy said that Asmir Begovic has been rumoured as being the new goalkeeper coach as part of the new structure. That's all it was. So it was quite interesting. Asmir Begovic was quite a good goalie during his time in the Premiership. So that was interesting. A few comments. This is something to kind of go over. People are talking about Dave King's comments today and about Saudi links and all that kind of stuff. You sent me something that he had said. I'm just going to try and bring it up. Here we go. On the new investors. So I'm interested to see, just before we finish up, what you think of this. King said, I think they're going to come in with a plan and I think they'll stick to the plan. But I do expect to see less of a supporters-led board and more of a calculated board that just has a plan in place. When things didn't go well, it'll be fine. They won't throw the plan aside. Yeah, they'll talk to supporters or explain to supporters, but they'll still stick to the plan. And while the plan is the plan, if the plan doesn't work, then you must revisit the plan. But you stick with the plan while you've got the plan in. So there's a lot of plans there. But I think, weirdly, like Dave King, you know, it's kind of like his final hurrah. He's sold up. He no longer has anything to do with the club. And I'm going to say something a bit interesting on the Parks in a wee second. This might be an interesting way to finish. But on King, he said that I think it makes sense. I do think they'll largely ignore what the fans think. And I was a wee bit, and here's where I've got to be honest with you, right? Patrick Stewart came out and said, backed Clermont after Queen's Park. He backed Clermont very strongly twice. And I thought it was the wrong thing to do at the time because I thought it would be inevitable that at some point Clermont would have to be moved on. We saw how that worked out. There's a part of me that thinks Patrick Stewart should have just stuck to his guns no matter what because he's said it. I think if we're going to make statements like that in the future, we can't be swayed. And that's what I would like to see leadership-wise and from this club. If they say, no, this is Ancelotti and he's here for X, Y, Z, then there's a part of me that thinks, or it's Russell Martin, or it's Marco Rosa, or whoever this is that's going to come in as a manager, thinks that that's the way, then we need to stick to it and not be swayed because we cannot keep chopping and changing and we cannot be affected by what's happening in the stands. So I think King's got a point in a way, but there's too much plans and the talk about the plans and the plans and the plans for me to make sense of it.
I think there was a plan somewhere. And listen, going to ask Chris if he managed to keep a straight face as he was typing that, because he must have been reading it himself, giving it all my word. It's just, listen, I don't want to be overly critical of Dave King, but Dave King's just got this incredible knack of winding me up every time I hear him or read him, and he has, and I don't like being too disrespectful about anybody because it's unnecessary, but it's the self-aggrandizing, I'll try that again, aggrandizing nonsense that he comes out with. It's all about him and how wonderful he is, and he set it all up, and then he conveniently slaps it in there that, yeah, but it was Paul Murray that set me up with it. So we don't have Dave King to thank for this. We have Paul Murray to thank for this. If you're really going to be factual about it, but Dave King wants to do that egomaniac thing. I just don't get it. He wants to take all the plaudits, and it kind of winds me up because he said, what has he got? 13, 14% of the shares he had We've sold 51. So is he to take more credit than everybody else that sold his shares? No, he doesn't. He doesn't deserve any more credit. And I'll tell you why I feel that way, because at the end of the day, Dave King's had this incredible habit of criticising others over the years when it suits him. But what did we win under Dave King? Nothing. Absolutely nothing, Stevie. And that's what winds me up about him. It's as if he thinks that he's some kind of saviour to Glasgow Rangers, and he isn't. There's been many people involved in all this, and he is not the guy that stands or sits on a pedestal. Certainly not for me. He just isn't. But on what he actually said, I actually do understand what he was trying to say, despite all the plans. I did get it. I did actually understand, because he is right. What we do is we talk with emotion in our voices, and we shout and bawl, and we tell the board what to do. And the board should just tell us to shut the fuck up and, carry on and do what they do, because we don't know how to run a football club, and we don't know necessarily what's best. We talk with emotion, and we talk, with our hand on our hearts, basically, and that's what we do. And I listen. I'm already getting het up because it's Dave, and I can't go it at all. I thought he was gone, and like 2 days later, he's back again, going to go away.
Do you know what's funny, Kenny? I've known you now for quite a long time, and I just put out the rod there, and you bit spectacularly. You didn't even answer the question. You just ranted about Dave King for 2 or 3 minutes, which was excellent.
That's my boxing, man.
Well, you hide it well. Full victim asks, I know Rangers were trying to sell the Albion car park to a property developer. Do you think that will be scrapped? Now, it won't be scrapped. They've already sold it. I'm pretty positive that they sold half of it, and they received the money for that, and it was leased back to us this year because they weren't going ahead with the development. Whether or not we'll still have that lease agreement next year, I'm not sure, but I'm pretty sure that's done. I would need to go back and check on it again, but my recollection of that is that deal is done, and that's sold, and it's then leased back to us. So that is a question there. Interesting thing, I'm going to end it with this, and this will be probably a good way to end it. There was a comment there that said Defoe wasn't very good, and I was really tempted just to bite on it, but I'm not having that. So let's quickly move on to it. So I heard today and was talking today to people, and what I've discovered is that Douglas Park remains Rangers' second largest shareholder. He's no longer involved in the football club. He won't be involved in the running of it. He won't be involved in the day-to-day. He has no desire to get involved in the running of the football club or have any say. He doesn't want it. But what he does want to do is still financially support the football club. He will be taking part in the share issue, and he will be, as one of the major shareholders that is available to him, and he will be taking part in it. He wants to be financially silent, but still supportive of the football club, which after everything and the abuse he's taken is some commitment. He's not walking away completely as such, but he doesn't have any say, and he doesn't want any say in the running the football club. He wants to be a supporter, but will continue to financially support the football club, Kenny. There's been a lot said about Douglas Park, but that's, it's pretty sizable, and for him to make those decisions and say, no, it's your ball, you can run the football club, but we're here to still financially back you. I found that really interesting.
Yeah, there's been a lot said about him by Dave King. And being serious for a minute, there's been an awful lot hinted and said by Dave King that swayed an awful lot of fans' opinion, because Dave King has that, or had that influence at times, where people would do his bidding for him at times, and no time for him, as I say. And I didn't particularly like the way they went about Douglas Park. And I know a friend, an old friend at Douglas Park's, and I could tell you this story that he actually was talking to him, and he had actually, years ago this is, but he said every time Dave King's in the room, when he leaves, I check my pockets, because he was he was literally always asking him for money. And I know a friend, an old friend at Douglas Park's, and I could tell you this story that he actually was talking to him, and he had actually, years ago this is, but he said every time Dave King's in the room, when he leaves, I check my pockets, because he was literally always asking him for money. Douglas Park stood up and stepped up for us. And whether people like him or not, fair play to the fella, because he's taken some amount of stick. And I find that really, really admirable. And I'm, as a Rangers fan, looking at an older boy that's a Rangers fan, I'm quite proud of him for that, because the shit he's had to take over the last couple of years has been, there's been no merit to it at all. I think it's been really undeserved, and fair play to him.
What I will say is the Parks navigated us through a COVID year where we lost over £20 million, and he's put a lot of money into this football club. Has he made mistakes? Absolutely. Will he admit he's made mistakes? Absolutely. Will Dave King admit he made mistakes? Yes. Will John Bennett? Yes. A lot of them put a lot of money into the football club. So I will criticise the mistakes they've made, but yeah, it's certainly an interesting one for me that Douglas remains financially supportive and financially active of the football club. So that's interesting without having any say into it at all. So there we go. Let's wrap up there. We've had an hour of our time. I don't want to keep you too much longer. We'll probably be on tomorrow. Most definitely, Kenny and I will be back Wednesday. There's more Thursday, Friday. It's just, we'll be on every day because there's so much to discuss. I think that's a fair way to end it. Thank you for everybody that's watched. Over 5,000 people watching this live. Incredible. Ridiculous, actually. So thank you for all your support. For YouTube members, new show today, just to highlight again. New show today, Rangers First and Favourites. I was on that with David Hurd. First viewing of that. It's David's show. It was nice to do it with him. I had a day off today. Davey's retired, so we were able to record that. I think Kenny will be next. Young Andrew Stewart's been lined up, whether he knows or not. We shall see. So that's there to check out for all your members. Please do. 30 minutes of me rabbiting on about my Rangers First and Favourites, if that floats your boat. A wee trip down memory lane. And then we've got the interviews, as I said before. Stephen Smith, Bob Malcolm, Derek Ferguson's on there. And then you've got an in-depth personal interview with Stephen Naismith, a good hour and a half on there. That is one that will continue. Got a few irons in the fire from players from the 70s, players from the 90s, and players from the 2000s have been asked if they would like to come on and do the next interview. So I'm hopeful that over the next couple of months we will keep the members' content coming. Just as a thank you for everybody that's signed up and is supporting. As I said, there's 400 of you doing that. So Kenny, round up. Thank you very much, mate, for your time. I'm sure I'll see you tomorrow. I'll definitely see you Wednesday. And I'll say definitely see you Wednesday because we're always on Wednesday. It's not because I think anything's going to happen. But if we're on, we'll probably come on tomorrow evening at 8 o'clock. I don't want to come on, folks, and just discuss the same stuff over and over. We've managed to vary it the last couple of days. So if things happen tomorrow, yep, we'll pop on. Even if it's just for half an hour, we'll probably come on about 8 o'clock, Kenny, and do the same thing.
Yeah, we'll just play it by ear, don't we? That's all we're doing at the minute. And yeah, lovely show. 5,200 people watching it at one point there. It's incredible. And I cannot believe you got me biting like that. I'm going to have to go and lie down, calm my little heart down. Too old for getting rattled like that, mate. You made me bite.
I got you twice tonight, and you don't even realise. And that's the thing. And Andrew's already put it on the chat that I've thrown you under the bus by putting you first for your opinions on everything, and you didn't even realise. So
I didn't notice actually.
I knew you would. I knew you would go with a King thing, that's for sure. But let's end there, guys. Thanks for joining. Really, really appreciate everybody's support. Thanks to our sponsors, Rhino Express, Clyview Joinery, Athol Industrial Solutions, CSD Air Conditioning, our partners, Black Rooster and Art of Gold, which is Stu Hamilton, who's been here for since day one at Four Lads, and he does all your he does all the setup for the pod and all the background stuff and everything else. So yeah, really enjoyed everything. Thanks for joining us tonight. Have a good night, folks. Have a good Tuesday. As soon as news breaks, we will come back on and discuss it. So many people are talking about Marco Rose getting announced. I do not know. As soon as I do, we'll be back on to tell you. Have a good night. and we'll see you all again soon. And if you have, sorry, just one last thing. If you haven't, please like and subscribe on YouTube. We're heading fast towards 7,500 subs, which is incredible because this time last week we were getting just towards 7,000. So thank you so very much for everybody to subscribe. If you haven't and you can, please do so. And we'll see you again tomorrow, maybe, definitely Wednesday, maybe, depending on what news comes and goes. But take care. Have a great
The Four Lads podcast is sponsored by Rhino Express, Clydeview Joinery, Athol Industrial Solutions Limited, and CSD Air Conditioning, in partnership with Black Rooster and Art of Gold. Thank you for listening to or watching the podcast. We hope you enjoyed the show.